All right, it's now 23 minutes to 7. This is Morning Express, and in case you're joining us now, welcome aboard. We are going to be looking at the dailies in just a bit, and Zinzi Kibiku is going to be introducing the panel that's going to do that. But just a quick reminder that later on State of the Nation today, we're going to be looking at the handshake. And there are those who've benefited possibly from your view, and others maybe who'll be losing out. So today we're asking who are the biggest losers and beneficiaries of the Uhuru-Raila handshake. I can see your comments are coming through, but I'll reserve them and read them when we start off State of the Nation. Later on, we'll also be hosting Esther Passaris, the Nairobi woman rep, and we'll be finding out from her basically the progress that she has made as woman rep so far. So that's also coming. If you have any questions for her, you're welcome to send them through and we'll pose them to her. But for now, we'd like to look at the dailies, and I'll start off with the Standard, where the headline is Solai Dam, second wave of impunity. So remember, just to draw your attention and a reminder, 47 lives were lost in this particular tragedy, and it was out of some of the investigations claiming negligence, others saying that certain systems were not put in place. But the story hits the headlines again with impunity. So let me hand over to Zinzi to introduce the guests first, and then just look through what that story is all about. Zinzi.
Well, with me this morning, we have our well-enabled guest. Sitting closer to me is Advocate Ambrose Weda. In the middle, I have Honorable Kembi Gitura, former Senator from Murang'a County. And my far left, Dr. Ruto Kirwa, who is the Deputy Party Leader to ANC. Gentlemen, as always, it's such a pleasure to have you this morning. The local daily, we're, more specifically the Standard, we're running with the Solai Dam, the second wave of impunity. Details of this, first of all, can be found on page 6 and page 7 of the Standard newspaper this morning. I dare you to grab your copy of it. But allow me to bring your attention to something. Already the first paragraph in itself spells out the entire story, and I quote, "Several survivors of the Solai tragedy have said that they regret accepting a conditional payment that bars them from pursuing further claims against owning the killer dam." It goes on to explain how the dam owners will not accept liability despite the payment of 100,000 for a life lost, 200,000 for a semi-permanent structure, and 1 million Kenyan shillings for permanent structures destroyed. Mr. Weda, allow me to begin with you. Yes. You are the advocate seated here.
Yes.
Is this not emotional blackmail? Here you have Kenyans who have lost, one family in itself has already lost 4 members. And then I am supposed to sign these legal documents that bar me from seeking justice. But at the same time, I also need that money to fund, for example, burial and to move forward with life. But there's also this aspect where I cannot go for justice for my loved ones.
Thank you so much. Before I answer, always remember that Kimbe here is my senior colleague.
Yes.
In the profession.
In the profession. So, one, these people are duped. There is the first aspect, which is called the criminal negligence. Negligence that causes death. Now, that is a criminal aspect, and I'm glad the DPP has ordered that these people be arrested and charged. That is one. Secondly, there was no time to do probate so that you can say, I represent my child or I represent my son. So these people are just, I think, contemptuous of the lives of people who died. So what they did does not amount to anything in law. It will be considered a donation. They donated. You get it? You cannot, somebody cannot die before probate. You say, for this child, I pay you 50. For that woman, I pay you 10,000. So that level of impunity, I think, is coming to an end because the DPP has decided that the owner of the dam must be charged with various offenses. Look at it this way. The rains did not just come up one day. These are things which have been predicted over the years. They know the state of the dam, the quality of the dam, how it was constructed, and so on and so forth. So they waited for people to die. And then when people have died, you can clearly see that they did not take reasonable steps to ensure the safety of people downstream, assuming they had permission to construct the dams. So those payments, those are watered down in the just like the dam water went. So are the payments. Those who are seeking payments should organize themselves and seek proper payment through good lawyers, and they'll get. A life is not worth 100,000.
Right, and speaking of good lawyers, we've seen the committee which is chaired by Makueni, Senator Mtula Kilonzo, who have really gone ham on this specific investigation. So kudos to them and their team. Even in fact, in page 7, we really highlight that aspect of Senator reveals plot to stop Patel Dam tragedy. Junior Kilonzo goes on, Honorable Kilonzo Jr. goes on to share that him and his team have been getting intimidation calls locally and internationally. Nevertheless, they are going forward with the investigations and carrying out this specific issue. Honorable Kembi Gitura, let me come to you. The Patel Dam in itself, the Patel family, are a vocal point within the area in the sense that economically they have financed schools, roads, etc. And this reminds me of the saying that we say here in Africa, you can bite the finger that feeds you. What do you have to say in regards to how businesses can easily, well, not businesses in itself, but how wealth and how a certain family can easily manipulate its way, given the fact that they've already done, quote unquote, enough for a community with the roads that they build and the schools, and the hospitals?
You see, there's nothing as bad as poverty. And that is why every day we try to fight poverty so that people are self-reliant. Because if you are poor, you become reliant on somebody else. In this case, all those people who are working in the Patel Dam or in the industry, the farm industry there, came to rely on him. And it is good that through social responsibility, he has built schools and clinics and what have you. That is good. That's what people should do. But I believe it's a question of poverty that leads to all these dependents. And this is the syndrome that we need to move from our midst. But having said that, this criminal negligence that we are talking about in Patel Dam tragedy is a clear case of what we mean when we talk about impunity. Because even as he is being charged, like we have read from the DPP, that the DPP has said he should be charged, we must remember that there are those people who licensed or who shut their eye so that he could continue with a dam that, and we are now reading, is not licensed. And I hope that they are going to go to the depth of it to deal with every single person who is involved in this, because Patel comes at the end of it all. Right. But there are the people, I don't know whether it's Warma or Nema or whoever it is, that we understand should have inspected it. Now, they were telling us when the tragedy happened that they were inspecting it and that the Patel was licensed. Now, the DPP Haji is telling us, and the Senate, and they are going to have to deal with Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr., who I know is a very diligent person. I've worked with him. And so it's a very sad situation. You know, poverty, coupled with people who just want to make money, and then they throw things at you, small things at you, which make you totally dependent. You believe you can't live without them. But I'm happy Weda has dealt with the issue of that compensation, so-called compensation. I should like to see the document that was signed by these people, because maybe it would not stand a day in court. Right. Yeah, maybe it to be torn to tatters if it gets to court, and maybe it would not be worth the paper it's written on.
Dr. Kipruto, Honorable Kembi raises a very important aspect in the sense that the Patel Dam was just the end result. You have these other bodies or organizations whose mandate was to secure and look at the area and look at the dam, and not even just the Solai Dam, just generally dams within the nation. What would you like to see those organizations and the role that they played in this manslaughter?
Yeah, thank you. First of all, let me just correct you, because I'm still a student. I may be a doctor in the next couple of years, but I prefer Honorable Kiru until I'm decorated with a doctorate.
Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
It's already been conferred in Jesus' name. So
thank you.
Just move it from the shelf.
Oh, thank you. Now, let me say this. It is worrying that we have to be dealing with this, with the aftermath of all these events, because there should be a preventive way of doing it. Remember last year we closed a number of schools that was said to be offering a curriculum that was not in tandem with our own curriculum here in Kenya. And you wonder, if somebody has started schools in 40 counties, where was the government at that particular time when those things were being done? Likewise, this may not be the only dam, or this may not be the only danger that poses to human beings. It means that many of our people go to sleep and they wake up when a disaster has befallen our nation. What we need to do is to spend more time doing preventive ways of ensuring that such things are not precipitated on our people. On the issue of compensation, the lawyers have dealt with it very well. What I just want to say is that it is actually an insult to the very community to be given 100,000. It doesn't compensate somebody's life. Even 1 million shillings for those of us who have built small houses and big houses. You know, 1 million shillings does nothing for a permanent house. You cannot even lay the foundation unless it's a house just like a pit latrine. That may cost you something closer to that. Otherwise, a serious house will cost up of 5 million, 10 million, depending on the kind of materials you are using. So overall, I think as a nation, we need to be cognizant of the fact that each and every individual, poor and rich, they deserve some kind of dignity, because Kenyans really should not be, doling 100,000 and somebody has lost a relative is not enough for any family.
All right, Michael, what else has grabbed your attention on the local dailies?
Yes, page 3 is also an interesting read away from politics, and this is a bill that is seeking to be introduced. Bill seeks to protect vital personal data, now sponsored by Baringo Senator Gideon Moi. The bill was tabled in the House on Tuesday, and it proposes that a person who collects and later discloses personal data has committed a crime. That is a bill that is waiting to be passed, and I'd like to hear, especially starting maybe with Honorable Kembe Gitura, on your thoughts on this as a lawyer, the Data Protection Bill 2018 that seeks to protect personal data misuse. We do know that data has become a very vital part of, collection for many companies, and especially personal data. And at their release, the senator here is proposing that that will become a criminal offense, especially without the direct authority of the person who's involved. Honorable Gitura?
Well, you must, let's start from the beginning. And first of all, I haven't seen the bill. So I will not be able to make, maybe a final comment, an intelligent comment on it, because I haven't read it. But let me say this. Not so long ago, we had to deal with this,
Facebook.
Facebook, yes. On the, what do you call this, something?
Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica from Britain. You saw what happened. You saw the fallout that followed. I think Cambridge Analytica finally closed shop, and Facebook is still reeling from it. They drop in the shares and what have you. Right. Only because they harvest the data from us, because every time you click into your Facebook, they record, and it's kept there, and your personal data is kept there. You see, when you're trying to get a new app, they ask you whether they allow
access to
your information, and normally you say yes, because you do not, then you cannot be able to get the app to proceed with the app. So they harvest all this data, and I think what Senator Gideon Moi is doing is pursuant to what we have seen in Cambridge Analytica and that Facebook fallout, and it will be good. Because personal data is personal to me, and unless and until I allow it to be used, it should not be used. And but lately in the world, because the world has become a village, we see it all the time. So my view is that yes, I haven't seen the bill, but if it is working towards eliminating what we have seen in Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, then yes,
it's a good direction to
take. A good direction to take.
Before we jump over, Weda, I'd really love to hear your thoughts, because I read an article in an international publication that said the world's valuable resource is no longer oil, but data. Especially in this day of technology, data is the most valuable resource. How does personal data, because we saw it play out in America, and of course, even with the Cambridge Analytica story that broke out, parts of here in Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta and his campaign were mentioned. How does data influence politics and the message behind it, and how they sort of skew a message to feed Weda on Facebook, Zinzi on Twitter, and so forth, their specific targeted voters?
Yes, thank you. Before I answer, I think the coming bill by Senator Gideon would basically be unconstitutional in this country. When you say if you receive data and you disclose it, there is the right to information. For instance, if IEBC receives my data as a voter and collects it and you go there and say, I would like to know the voters in Seme constituency, you are entitled to it. So that bill will have the help to do a dabra to ensure that it passes the threshold. However, the part that is illegal is when you release the data for use by others for specific things. For instance, now that is where your question comes. When you look at my data, you are able to discern my patterns, my character, and then from there, you can fashion what you want. For instance, if you go to a constituency and you'll get that most people are below the age of 25, then it helps you to fashion your campaign. There will be music and dancing and so on. But if you find they're mostly 60, I'm not saying being 60 and 65 is bad, but then you don't go there with with all sorts of, there are certain category of music you choose. There's a certain category of message you go with. You don't go there dancing out with bling bling. People like Honorable Kembe will be like, this is a joke. Now again, if you go pious to the young people, they say it's boring. So the data is used to make certain commercial decisions. And that is where Facebook and this other team had issues. That is where, when now the campaign got the data, then they analyze and then they design. From your data, we can tell the kind of human being you are. And that is the part that requires protection. But giving it out, like in Kenya, the law allows you walk into any place. I'll walk here. I'd like to know who is the head. What is his qualification? What degree does he have? Where did he go to school? All these things we want to know. And I will say, before I even come, I want to know whether there's credibility in this media house. So he has to work around the clock. Otherwise, just a blanket ban would have no basis.
All right, so details on all these stories can be found on The Standard this morning. Of course, we have an inspiring article there of first brain surgery at Kapenguria. But also on the Daily Nation, there's one aspect of how declare your stand on Ruto, Rift elders there with President Uhuru Kenyatta. That is where we will close off the press review. But we're taking a quick commercial break. When we come back, Michael Kitonga with the same panel will take us through State of the Nation. So stay with KTN News.